Good evening, everybody, and happy Sabbath. I hope you had a good week. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay. Tonight, our it's a very short devotion that I've prepared. And the title of it is Losses and Gains from God's Perspective. Losses and Gains from God's Perspective. The chapter we will take into consideration for this evening is Mark chapter 10, and we will start by looking at verse 28. We will read. Then Peter began to say unto him, Lo, we have left all and have followed thee. When we look at Peter's words, there is a sense of loss, a sense that he feels he had to give up some in order for him to follow. But when we look at verse 29, when Jesus answered and said, Verily I say unto you, there is no man that has left house, brethren, sister, father, mother, wife, children, or lands for my sake and the gospel's. Jesus tells him that things lost here on this earth, we will get back. In chapter 30, he gives us that assurance. But he shall receive 100-fold now in this time, houses and brethren and sisters and mothers and children and lands. But the word we have in consideration here is with persecutions. This tells us that even though we lose some things, we will gain it in pain. If we look at the chapter, Mark 10, we will see that it is laced in losses. Verses 1 to 12 shows us the loss of marriage, divorce. In here, we have a sense of that the loss of marriage it's not just the loss of a partner or partnership or companionship. It's more, it's income, it can be property, it can be future plans, emotional losses, and there's a whole list of other things. If we look at verses 13 to 16, here we encounter the loss of children, in the sense that the disciples didn't want the children to be blessed by Jesus. Jesus corrected them and said, He is not willing that any child should be lost due to the lack of spiritual attention. Life on earth is laced with losses. Some of us have lost employment, especially in this time. Some of us had to go through the loss of our loved ones. Some, property. We must always remember we serve a Christ who understands our losses, that what we consider losses in God's eyes might be a gain. Verses 17 to 26, we deal here with the loss of material possessions. The rich young ruler was challenged to give up where his heart was. This tells us until we have lost all for God's sake, we haven't really lost. Losses may not be the worst thing that can happen. It may only be preparation for gains, a stepping stone. Sometimes God needs to strip us to save us. He needs to strip some of us from our possessions. Some He needs to strip from pride, some covetousness, some from status. The question is there anything in our list of things that we're not willing to lose for Christ? Then that thing is not a gain. For the word says, what shall it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul? Verses 32, 34 to 34 shows us the ultimate loss, the loss of life. Are we ready? Are we willing to lay down our lives? Christianity is not about inconveniences, but it's about sacrifice. Are we willing to sacrifice all for Christ? God's agenda is we must always remember, God's agenda is higher than ours. His goals and His plans is higher than ours. What He takes away He takes so that we can be with Him, that we can follow Him, and ultimately that we may gain the most precious gift of all, and that's eternity. We must view our loss as His gain, and His gain is ultimately our gain. I hope this evening we will look at our losses in a different way. We will understand that when God allows for us to lose, it is so that we may gain eternity. Thank you. Amen.